we have a problem. What is that problem, you might ask? Well, we live in a world full of sinful, broken, and hurting individuals. And we as the church are called to help them, to love them, to care for them. Too often we get caught up in the performance of church, of following the law, of doing the right thing. When simply put, all God has asked us to do is love. I mean, whether that's division in the world today that you see, whether it be the political parties or gang violence or racial violence or whatever it may be, really just something as simple as a fellow believer and you get in an argument because you're right and they're wrong, causing a division that doesn't have to be there. See, so often we get caught up in the details that we forget that all God really asks us to do is love. To love the outcast, to love those that are unlovable oftentimes. But how do we do that? See, Jesus gave us this command when speaking to the Pharisees in Mark chapter 12, that the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. But see, the second is like it. You are to love your neighbor as yourself. So let's think about that. How would you love yourself? Well, you'll make sure that you're fed, you make sure that you're comfortable, make sure that you have the desires of your heart, and you get what you want. So, when we take that approach and truly love our neighbor as ourselves, we want what's best for them. We want to make sure they're comfortable. We want to make sure they're cared for. But how do we do that? Well, thankfully, Jesus didn't just leave us with a command. He also told us how. He showed us how through his actions. Jesus was a servant leader. In John chapter 13, we read the story of when he washed the disciples' feet. The disciples didn't understand this. They were confused. Well, no, you're our master. We should be washing your feet. But see, Jesus left this example because it goes right back to loving. Jesus loved his disciples, and he was showing them how to serve others first, before themselves. To set aside what is so natural to us and our selfish desires, and to find the betterment of humanity as a whole. Jesus confronted the Pharisees in the way they prayed in public, the way they worshipped in public, knowing that it was supposed to be an intimate relationship with God. And so when we have this outline, this biblical outline, we get a glimpse into how we're supposed to love others. And Colossians 3 tells us that we're God's chosen people, and we should be tenderhearted, caring for one another, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ forgave us. So how do we apply that to leadership? Well, see, everyone's a leader. Whether you're leading a child, you're leading your peers, your coworkers, or you're leading an entire organization. Every one of us has the potential to influence another. And with this potential, we can rise to the occasion, or we can fall short. Thankfully, God gave humanity intelligence, and he gave us the opportunity to learn and grow. And so, with that intelligence, many people have studied and learned what leadership really looks like, and the many different theories and styles that go along with it. One way that Jesus led was through transformational leadership. Transformational leadership, simply put, is when you walk into the situation with the needs of the follower in mind. And you want to see the follower reach their best. And you want to see the follower eventually become a leader. And so when we walk into an opportunity of leadership, knowing that we care so much about that person that we want to see them succeed, we're able to create leaders who create more leaders, disciple others. But see, in that transformational leadership, we also have to look at human morals. See, morality would say that there's a right and a wrong. And of course this is true according to the Bible. But with that right and wrong, it is wrong to ignore the lonely, to ignore the hurting. We have to reach out. So what are some practical steps we can take to do that? Well, it could be seen in any area, whether that's a Sunday morning church service or a simple Bible study in the home. We can see that person who maybe doesn't quite fit in. They're not quite athletic enough. They're not smart enough. They kind of just get stuck in the cracks. Because they don't have the love of Christ. They don't know what that hope is. We can show that to them by inviting them to a Bible study, inviting them to a Sunday morning church service, and simply including them. Another leadership style is inclusive leadership. The inclusive leadership model uses the concept that no one is greater than another. Yes, you have to have a leader who can organize, but an inclusive leader takes the opinions of his followers, of his peers, and no matter their race, their gender, or anything else, knowing that their ideas are just as important as that particular leader. And so when you include somebody and just give them the opportunity to speak, you will continue to transform the church in the way that we lead. And with these theories, perhaps it's a special needs family that comes into the church. Their son or daughter is affected with a disability. So they're not going to be able to sit through a typical lesson like a neurotypical child would. So how do we solve that problem? Well, we create a system. We create a program for them. Whether that's a special classroom to teach them individually, one-on-one, where they can move around and not disrupt as much. Or perhaps it's pairing them with a leader who cares specifically about them, to allow them to be included in the class, showing them the love of Jesus, just the same way the other kids get it. Just because they're different doesn't mean it's bad. Or perhaps a support group. We have people affected by many things in our world today, whether that's a disability, suicide, depression, addiction. When we create support groups, we are coming alongside those that are fighting that battle. And not only are we coming alongside those that are fighting that battle, we're also coming alongside their families and supporting them through supporting their relative or their friend. And so through these support groups, we can serve those families that are just too tired to keep going, that just need a break. Whether that's going and helping with the kids, cooking a meal or otherwise. So I'll challenge you with this. In a world full of opportunity, and the amount of choices we make every day, choose to be kind. Choose to say hi to that person who's sitting by themselves. Choose to compliment a person because you notice something good about them. Choose the good over the grudge. Choose to spread love and hope the way that Jesus did, the way that he sat with the sinners and the hurting and the broken, rather than judging and condemning. Just because, oh look, I'm better. No one person is better than another. We're all sinners and we all fall short. And thus we must all come together as a community. Thank you.